Ladies and gentlemen, in South Africa, everything works perfectly. Specifically the judiciary. We hear that all the time, right? Our judiciary. Be proud of it. It's not captured, right?
Yeah, except of course that is utter hogwash. This is South Africa. Everything is captured. You just don't know it yet. And the reason we say it is captured is because you have people like Julius Malema appointing judges, or at least being in the realm, the mechanism in terms of appointing judges. And Julius Malema is a bit of a racist prick. And therefore Julius Malema will not allow any white judges, irrespective of prestige and experience, to become a judge in South Africa. And now we know why. He thinks they're all racist.
So this is the news that Unterhalter, if you haven't heard of him, he's basically a white judge. Apparently a very good one. Apparently Ramon went to law school. He was one of Ramon's lecturers. Who knew? Small world. Anyway, so this judge apparently is going through to try to get a position on the Supreme Court of Appeal, Constitutional Court. He's been to the JSC a few times. And the Judicial Selection Board, or, the bunch of politicians that interview them and recommend them to the president, includes, for some unknown reason, Julius Malema. Now, the last time he went before Julius says, well, he's unfit for office. He shouldn't be there because of, are you waiting for it? Racism and arrogance. Yes, Julius Malema calling somebody arrogant.
Yeah, the jokes sort of do write themselves. But what Julius says about David Unterhalter, who is a sort of white lib kind of guy, right? I knew him in my past. What he says about this guy is like, it's a white lib, so it's a subtle racism. You can only pick it up if you got 1,000 XP revolutionary points, like Julius Malema. Like if you like someone else, just a normie, you don't pick up the subtle racism. But because Julius Malema is so in tuned to the decolonization project in South Africa, he can pick up that racism that no one else can. I mean, the black Chief Justice can't pick it up, the black President can't pick it up, the black Minister of Justice can't pick it up. Hell, even other black members of the JSC can't pick up the subtle racism that Julius Malema can. So, based on that subtle racism, Julius Malema says David Unterhalter is unfit to become a judge on the SCA, which is all fair and well. We expect nothing more from that arsehole. But the worrying part is that the Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, did nothing at all to dissuade the committee to say that this subtle racism claim is utter bullshit. He just let it slide.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we come through to a subtle racism claim, this actually referred to what Malema actually had to say. And he said, and I quote, "I like the racism of the Afrikaners because they don't hide it. It does not come in a subtle way. It's open. It is arrogant as that they tell you that what they want and they give it to you just like that. You know what you're dealing with, but I'm very sorry. This is what we are dealing with here. I will never support such an attitude, and I will never succumb to subtle racism that masquerades itself as being intelligent." And Zondo, who is responsible for securing the integrity of the Judiciary Service, actually said, well, nothing. He was like, yeah, I agree.
And that's the sort of worrying part. If we are to believe that the judiciary is not captured, why isn't the judiciary fighting politicians like Malema, telling them to shut the fuck up, and letting them appoint the best people for the job? Because Raymond Zondo apparently supported Unterhalter's application, but because Malema said he was subtly racist, he wasn't picked for some reason. And Zondo should know better. He is a Chief Justice. He has a duty that if Unterhalter is accused of being a racist, Unterhalter must be able to question or to have answers for those claims. But no questions or answers were asked from David Unterhalter. It's like a basic premise of legality in this country.
And Freedom Under Law commented, the Chief Justice, in failing to perform his duty, allowed the JSC to arrive at a decision irrationally and unconstitutionally. Yeah, that's kind of the point. The Chief Justice himself, who's responsible for upholding the Constitution, just doesn't do so when it comes through to challenging politicians. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you may ask yourself the question, well, why is this the case? actually, this is very easy to understand, and the case against this specific judge is also very easy to understand. Would you note he's actually heard cases against the EFF and EFF members, and on, left-wing points, and he didn't find in their favor, and so as a result, they don't like him. And obviously, all you have to do in Rechtsstaatsunterstand to discredit somebody is just call them racist, which is what they did. So actually, this disincentivizes the judiciary from being independent, because when you are independent and you find against somebody, your future prospects of career progression or promotion is pretty much dead in the water because of racism and stuff.
And what are the chilling effects of this? Well, in terms of the experience of judges across the board, in the Supreme Court of Appeal, we've lost the equivalent of 240 years of legal experiences because judges have retired or moved on to the Constitutional Court or something like that. And if we were allowing mediocre black judges in under the auspices of transformation, that is how capture of the judiciary happens. It has already happened at the lower level, the Magistrates Court. It is happening at the High Court. It has happened somewhat in the Supreme Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court. But to this date, there are still some judges out there who are a bit independent. But if Julius Malema is still on the JSC within the next 5 years, don't expect any justice from the judiciary. They would have been completely captured, not through ideology, but through sheer mediocrity.
Actually, let's give you an example of just how sterling the judges are in the lower courts. Specifically, let's give you an example of the Equality Court. So there's actually a case going on at the moment around some, bank closures and some other bullshit. But that's actually immaterial. What is material is the actual statement that one of the lower court judges used. And I'm going to quote. They said, in reference to non-disclosures as to why the accounts were shut, they said, if we allow the ability not to do disclosure, it says that will allow the foul smell of racism and white superiority to linger around the major banks in the Republic. Yeah, and then they go on to basically say there must be disclosure because this would be in line with their duty and responsibility to promote equality. And then they go off and basically go on a big rant about, whitey evil, black good. Yeah, this is what we have in the lower courts. The guys are dumb. And we get, critical race theory in the lower courts? Well, imagine that in your constitutional courts, in your Supreme Courts. Can't see how this could go wrong. Could you, Ramon?
So now it's sort of like an open secret where you know that you're not going to get justice in the Magistrates Court, but you might get justice on the appeal to the High Court. And if you don't get justice in the High Court, you might get an appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal. And generally, this will wash out. The right decision will be made somehow. But if what happens in the Mag Court is happening in the High Court and happening in the SCA, on the basis that Julius Malema is allowed to prevent excellent people from becoming judges, you're just never going to have justice in this country at all. And this is something that can happen within the next 5 years very, very easily. You're going to become another gangster state like Zimbabwe, where you have no authority to get justice from the judiciary. This is what Malema wants. Freedom under law wants to prevent that. And I think in this particular case, this NGO might be correct.
Yeah, now let's also be very clear, ladies and gentlemen. There's a reason Malema wants this, and that is so that he and his cronies and all the rest of the looters will never be held accountable for the crimes that they have perpetrated against the Republic. This is entirely planned. And at this juncture, it looks like the plan's going exactly according to plan, and they're getting exactly what they want. Thankfully, there is some parts of society that is standing against it.
But also one more thing about that. Assuming Malema has some sort of political power in time to come and he wants to pass laws that are inherently unconstitutional, well, he's got paid idiots at the court who truly believe in what he has to say about black, white racism and colonialism and all the rest of that stuff. They're going to say, yeah, expropriation's perfectly constitutional because, reparations and bullshit like that. That's what happens when you appoint mediocrity. You get people who just follow the cult, and Julius's cult in this particular regard.